To do the do nothing machine, we're going to hit new and we're going to open up a standard assembly. Once I have my assembly in here, I need to place my parts. So I'm going to go to place and I'm going to find my files for the do nothing machine, which are here. And to select them all, I'm going to click on the first one, single click, hold down shift, and then click on the last part, and it will select all of them. Click open, and now I can place my parts. So I'm going to click once to place them, and then click escape so that I don't accidentally place them a second time. From here, I'm going to select all the parts that I need multiples of. So I need four of these, and then two of all of these. So I'm going to click on this one, hit Control C to copy it, and then Control V, and it will paste them wherever I put my mouse. Same thing here, Control C, Control V to paste, and then I need two of these, so I'm just going to repeat this process for all the parts that I need duplicates of. Okay. So in order to make this assembly, the first thing I need to do is find a part to be grounded so that it won't move. All these parts are right now are movable because they haven't been constrained in place, but I want one to be in place so that I can lock all the other parts to it. So I'm going to click on this base piece here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to select grounded. And now you'll notice that this part will not move anymore. So I can use this part as my base for everything. So in order to get these locked in, I'm going to take my parts that I need and I'm going to constrain them in place. So I'm going to hit the constrain button here. And the first thing I'm going to do under my solutions is I'm going to mate this surface, the top of the base part, to the bottom of the blue part that I want there. Click apply. And then I need to flush the edges. So I'm going to flush this edge or this face with this face here to lock that in place in this direction. And you'll notice if I look now, I can move it left or right, but it won't come off the plate and it won't move off of this axis right here. These two faces remain flush. So now I'm just going to go and flush this last part here. And then I'm going to repeat this process for all four corners of my plate. Flush. Bottom here. And this is where using a mouse is really important because it allows me to orbit around my shape really quickly. I don't have to use the view cube to get at the faces that I want to be selecting. So all four of those should be locked in place right now. I can verify that by trying to drag them and they won't move. I could also look in my browser window and the little dot next to the part name is now white, meaning that it is locked in place. While I'm here, I'm just going to get this slider part locked in. So what I'm going to do for this is instead of 3 constraints, I only want 2 because I want this to be able to slide. So I'm going to get the bottom of my slider to the top of my part here, the top of my base. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mate just one side of it. So I'm going to mate this side here to this blue slide here, side of the blue rectangle. And now it will move freely along this slot. So I'm going to do that now for the other piece. If I want to rotate the piece to get it more in place where with what I'm looking at, I can right click on this part and go to free rotate, and then I can use this to orient the part closer to what I'm trying to get for its final position. So mate the bottom of this here, and then I'm going to flush or mate, sorry, this side to that side. And now that's locked in, but it will still slide. Now I'm just going to finish this here. this part on top. Flush those sides just like I did with the blue ones. Kind of stacking these on top of each other. So now I have the plates all lined up. So I'm going to assemble these sliders. So for this part, I'm just going to move these out away from the shape just so that I can see full access to them. And for this next part, I'm going to do, instead of a normal constrain, mates and flushes for this one, because I want this part to be able to rotate within there, I'm actually going to rotate this a little bit so that it is oriented correctly. And here I'm going to use the joint command. And the type of joint that I want is a rotational, so that this thing can actually spin while it's inside of there. And what's important with a rotational command is that you select the edges that will mate up. So I want this edge right here, this face, to mate up with that one right there. And that will constrain it in place, but still allow for that rotational movement, so that when I go and I try and run this thing, it will actually rotate the way that I want it to. So I'm going to select the top here, the top there, put it in place. And now this part will not move out of that. Blue part is there. And then I just need to put this part on top of here. So for mating, everything we've done so far has been faces. If I need to mate like cylinder walls or holes or anything like that, circular, if I zoom in and I get to the side of this cylinder here, you'll see this green line show up. And what that's indicating is that I'm actually, instead of selecting the face of this inside cylinder, I'm actually selecting the center axis. So if I can do that, I can select this center axis and line that up with this center axis and hit apply. And now this part will be on there lined up with those pegs in the hole. So now I can just flush the sides. Oops, sorry about that. Flush those sides there. And then I can mate this face here. Now that part is completed. I can repeat the process over here. So I'm going to constrain that center axis with the axes of the peg. Apply that. I'm going to flush the back ends here. And then mate the two surfaces there. Now I can kind of put these sort of into position. And for this part, I'm just going to do those center axes again. So I need this center axis of that hole to line up with one of these pegs. So I can hit apply there. And then if I want this to mate the surface, I can do two things. I can mate the top of this gray surface with the bottom of the blue arm. Or since I know that these parts, the top of the peg and the top of the blue part, need to be flush, I can also flush those two surfaces, and it will accomplish the same thing. So that one's locked in place. Now I can go to constrain, mate the axes again. And since it's lined up on that side, I don't have to worry about this coming up or down. So all I need to do is line those center axes up there because it's already flush with the top of the other part. Now if I put this into a nice isometric view, I can run my do nothing machine. It is all complete and nothing is moving. Nothing's moving away from what it should be. And that's how you do the do nothing machine.